welcome to the session. Topic of this session is global experiences of participation. You are aware that the participation is important for making good policies, particularly related to agriculture sectors, because it is a complex process. We need to have opinions or the consensus of the different peoples, different stakeholders, starting from the farmers, the consumers, the traders, the government, the political parties, different civil service organizations, the cooperative sectors. So, there are different types of the people's stakeholders. Involvement is very much required in the agriculture policy formulation process, and particularly the participation of the target beneficiary is very much required in the policy formulation process, because through the participation process we can identify the real issues, real problem, and based on that identification of real problems we can also find the real or the right instruments to achieve, to resolve the problem, to solve the problem. And so that's why the participation of the target beneficiary is very much important, and actually this participation help in defining the objective of the policies. And there the participation, the education plan, actually we can prepare with the support of the target beneficiaries, and their involvement is very much required. And there are few experiences of the participation of the stakeholders and the target beneficiaries in the policy formulation process, and in this session basically we are going to discuss about them. There are different experiments are there, which involve the participation of the pupils, in different countries. In India also we have some experience of the participation. So, in this session basically we are going to learn, or the objective of this session is to learn from the successful examples on the participation in the agriculture policy process. And we have few examples from the India, and then we have few examples from other country also. So, we are going to discuss. Actually there are 5 or 6 cases I have brought in this session, and though there is a very limited examples are there, and it has to be mainstream the participation of the people and the target beneficiaries. We need to develop some mechanism. Actually there is as such there is no mechanism available in that the participation is compulsory. So, we have very sketchy examples of the successful experience of the people's participation in the policy process, but here we have the 5-6 good examples which I brought here in this session. The first example, or the case of the people's participation, we can see that in the development of the National Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plan, NBSAP, and actually this project was started, implemented by the Ministry of the Environment and Forest, and this total project was coordinated by the Pune based NGO Kalpvruksh, and there was a technology policy core group was there, which was formed by the ministry, and actually this complete project was administered by the Biotech Consortium of India Limited, BCIL, New Delhi, and this project was funded by the Global Environment Fund and through the United Nations Development Program. And this project basically we followed a bottom up principles by involving peoples from the various stakeholders to make their own action plan. So, actually the objective was to develop a national biodiversity strategy and action plans which can be implemented at the national level, but the process started with the bottom with the involving of the people from the grassroots level by creating their own the plan or the project, and then we build the a national plan or biodiversity plan. So, actually the national plan was drafted only at the end of the process. The national plan was the outcome of the national plan, or the document of the national plan was developed at the end of the complete process. And actually first we have developed around more than 70 local, state, interstate and thematic action plans we have prepared in this experiment, and more than 50,000 pupils have participated from the communities, the academics, the government officials, the students and other pupils. And there was widespread grassroots consultations and awareness campaign was launched in this program. And we have the implementers, they have done the public hearing, the bio festivals were organized, the workshop and seminars were organized, the foot march and boat rallies were organized, questionnaires were circulated, there was a lot of outreach programs through the mass media or folk media to involve, to motivate the people to participate in preparing the local, state, interstate or thematic action plans on the biodiversity. And this national action plan is prepared by the technical and policy core group, and it was basically built upon this 70 odd plans. So there are about 70 odd plans were prepared, and based on input included in 70 odd plans, the national action plan was developed by the technical and policy core group. And this action plan basically included the different aspects like national land and water use plans we have developed based on the outcome or input information provided under the 70 program. Then we have created we strengthened the decentralized institution of governance. So in the action plan, the decentralized institutions of governance were created, and conserving the area that are critical for crop and livestock diversity were identified, area were conserved. And these action plans, they promoted the indigenous nutritionally superior crop foods like food crops such as the coarse millets, and through the public distribution systems, midday meals scheme and other such public sector schemes, these nutritionally superior foods were provided to the people. And we have estimated the full economic social value of the biodiversity, their role in the ensuring water and in climate stability and soil productivity improvement, livelihood improvement. All these activities were included in the national plan of the biodiversity strategy. And actually based on this 70 odd plans, the implementation and monitoring mechanisms were developed for the national biodiversity. And here also there was a link were created to the Government of India's Biodiversity Act, so that it can be implemented from the central force. So from this center. So these action plans, biodiversity strategy action plans, was linked to the India's Biological Diversity Act. So relevant authorities or board at the local, state and national levels can be created. The National Biodiversity Net was built on the network created in the NBSAP process. So based on the network created for the developing the 70 the local or state or interstate plans. So same network are also used to implement this the India's Biological Diversity Act. And basically specially designed officers were given a responsibility to handle the biodiversity matter in each union ministries. Then another example is the agriculture policies for human development project APST in Ukraine. Ukraine basically a European country, and the APST was designed to support and facilitate the developmental and implementation of the effective agri-food and rural development policies, and through advice and technical support to the government, and to facilitate independent thinking through consultation and dialogue with the major stakeholder and international donor community. So, it's basically this system was developed to help to advise the government on the to provide the technical support to the government to develop to facilitate the effective policies for agri-food and rural development in the Ukraine, and the overall objective of this was to improve the Ukraine agri-food and rural development policy to alleviate the poverty and stimulate growth in the economy. So, here in this project or in this development program, they utilize the participatory approach involving wide majority of the partners in each exercise, and the primary beneficiary of the project was the government, the Agrarian Policy Coordination Council, who is the responsible for the policy making aspect in the Ukraine, and also the other beneficiary, which include the governments and society organization or private sectors. And in this project, basically 6 key strategic areas were identified, were involved in this project, like agriculture. So, here the primary production, agriculture inputs and financial aspect were included. Then in case of the food, the food processing aspect, the marketing aspect, quality and safety of the food, the value addition activity, all this included. Then for the rural development, actually livelihood or rural livelihood aspect, the social spares, the non-farm activities, all these activities were involved in this project. Then the WTO, EU, European Union integration or for their international requirement for integration aspect were also included in this project, and the land reform aspect were also included, like next phase of the reform, the land market development, then budget and taxation aspect were also included here in this, the allocation of the budget, the funding support, the taxation policy, and then market reforms aspect were also included, like liberalization, market and price support. So, all these key strategic areas were identified in this agriculture policy for human development project, and the basic approach was the participatory. Different types of stakeholders were involved in developing this project. Then another example is the participatory technology, policy and institutional development to address this soil fertility degradation in Africa. There are different level and causes of soil fertility decline, which are found among the agroecological joints, soil types, the farming system, the cash and food crops, home field and bush field. Different levels of the soil fertility declines were found among the different cropping system, the farming system, the different ecological zone, different type of soils. And the farmers, what they used to do, they adopt some technology and basically to address this nutrient imbalance problem or soil fertility decline problem. So, they adopt some technology that is the traditional type of response we have when we find some problem, we adopt some technology. And the farm household, they continue to develop and adapt existing technology to the changing situation. So, whenever such problems appears, or particularly related to soil fertility, they developed or they modify their own way the existing technology, and they solve their problem. So, in this way, the participatory approaches have yielded some impressive results in isolated cases. So, the farmers their own they are adapting, they are modifying the existing technology, and they are utilizing them to resolve this or to solve this soil fertility degradation problem. So here actually there was a triangle was established actually of the triangle of the interactive triangle of the land users, science and policy people, and at various levels like local level, the national level, international level we can say. So in this triangle or the consortium of the three peoples, the land users means the farmers, the science means the research people, and the policy triangles means the government, and a triangle were created to resolve or to find out the problem of soil fertility degradation in the Africa, and basically it has help in joint learning, or this mediating help various activities of policy formulation, like more informed decision making was enables through these triangles. There was a more focused design of agriculture sector policies, because the opinions or the inputs were there from all types of peoples. Then implementation of policies by effective institutions, because the target group were also there, and appropriate technology development implementation was possible, because people or the farmers were also involved, the land users were also involved, the input from research organization were also there, and the financial supports from the government were also there. Then the next example is the participatory approach to livestock development in Mali. This was one of the very good examples based on the village study, how they have developed the national plans for the livestock development in the Mali. And actually the livestock sector is the very important contributors in the GDP or agriculture GDP of the Mali. More than 25% contribution is there from the livestock sectors in the agriculture GDP there, and there was a limited investment in the livestock sectors, around 10% for the of the total rural development project is invested in the livestock sector. So the government of Mali basically they requested the World Bank to support or to initiate a participatory process of policy formulation for the red meat subsector. So actually the government requested the World Bank to develop some policies in a participative manner for the red meat subsectors, and so they have adopted the participative rural appraisal technique in the 10 villages. So they have the World Bank, they have conducted this participatory rural appraisal technique in the 10 villages in the Mali, and for implementing this technology or these techniques, they have provided the training workshops or for the methodological aspects, and then they have conducted the village level consultation with the beneficiaries, and then they have organized a wrap-up workshop in the villages, and then they have also a retreat to distill recommendation from the data collected out of this participatory rural appraisal in the 10 villages. So in this participatory rural appraisal techniques, several issues were identified and solutions were also envisaged, like there was a problem which was identified as the lack of locally available animal feed concentrate. So the farmers expressed in the 10 villages that we don't have the this animal feed concentrate. So the solutions were decided is that we need to liberalize the concentrate industry concentrates industry in the Mali. Then they have also identified the lack of market information, so that it was decided that a weekly publication of market prices will be there through the radio. So a comprehensive sectoral strategy was developed based on the information collected in the PRA exercises. And then they finally they have developed strategies for the rural sector development in the Mali, and which has included different recommendations or different strategies like restructuring of the Ministry of Rural Development and Environment MRDR to improve the capacity to plan, implement and monitor activities. So, actually they recommended to restructure the Ministry of Rural Development and basically so that they can develop the good plans, implement the good plan, and then they can monitor the activity. They have developed in different type of policies, and so like land tenure policy were developed, the input supply and marketing policies, the health control in effective extension policy were recommended based on the PRA exercise. Then they have also included the extension components like they promote the functional literacy among the pastoral community, they provide messages to the producers group, then there was a recommendation to train the para-veterinarians in the Mali. Then also they have supported the pastoral organization, and they also created the mechanism for the market price broadcasting. So, all this complete exercise was done based on the PRA exercise conducted on the 10 villages. And also there in these participatory approaches some problems were observed, like there was a limited involvement of the some stakeholders, still some stakeholders do not participate fully, and the local facilitators, they have the limited experience of the participatory techniques. So, they need to be this was based on the experience, we need to develop the capacity of the local facilitators for conducting the participatory exercises. And in the whole exercise it was observed there is inadequate attention to the social issues, and also when we conduct some exercise involving the people at the grassroots level, it raises the expectation of the communities. So there is a high expectation when we involve the pupils, and there was a limited representation at the wrap-up workshop or follow-up retreat. So these are some of the problems were encountered in the PRA exercise. Now the last case is the joint forest management in India, and this was one of the successful participation of people, we can say, in the development program. And yes, forest management is mostly recognized, and basically this forest management in India, they stress on the partnership between the state forest department and the local community. So this is one of the progressive policies, we can say, in the world, which involve the forest department as well as the local community, which are basically beneficiary of the forest. So actually, and the force or driving force for implementation of joint forest management in India was drawn from the National Forest Policy, which was created in the 1988, and India's this forest policy is one of the progressive policies which was recognized in the world. And in this policy, basically higher priority is given to the conservation and meeting local communities needs. So the focus was given on the conservation of the forest as well as to meet the local community requirement of the forest product rather than the revenue generation through the commercial exploitation. This joint forest management was an outcome of the some necessity or the felt necessity. It was felt that there should be active and willing participation of the forest freeing community. So it was felt in the National Forest Policy that there should be active participation of the communities who are residing near the forest areas. So we need to involve them actively, and and the peoples or the village community, they have a little incentive to participate in the forest management or forest conservation. So actually we need to build some incentive to the village communities so that they participate in the forest management activities. So, actually we need to create some direct benefit, and we also need to provide some authority to them, so they effectively participate in the forest management activities. So, this was some of the felt necessities or felt requirements. So, that is why the project of joint forest management was developed, and this strategies or the joint forest management project was basically a kind of agreement between the forest department and the village community to jointly protect and manage the forest land adjoining the villages, and actually to share the responsibilities and benefit also for the forest management. So, joint forest management is basically an agreement between the forest department and the village community to jointly protect, to undertake the activities for protection of the forest, forest land, the nearby the village areas, and also to share the responsibilities or activities, and also the benefit. If there is any benefit from the forest management activity, this benefit will also be shared among the society, among the community. And basically this village community is basically represented by a forest protection community, that is an institution formed for the purpose to protect the to undertake the activity of the forest management. And there are different names to these institutions in different states, like Varna Samraksha Samiti in Andhra Pradesh or Hill Resource Management Society in Haryana. So, there are different names are there, or in some states panchayats were also entered into this joint forest management agreement along with the village community and forest department. And basically village community role, they get the greater access to the non-timber forest product NTFPs, and they share the timber revenue in return for their increased responsibility. So, this village community were given the responsibility to protect the forest from the fire, grazing and illicit harvesting, and the revenue is there from this forest in the form of non-timber forest product is shared among the communities in the village community. This early experiment of this joint forest management approach was started in West Bengal and Haryana in 1970s, and we have observed the strong movement of joint forest management in the Odisha and South Bihar. And different states have different success rate in regenerating the forest resources. And now we can sum up this session that the beneficiaries were involved in the policy development and their implementation in different types of sectors, particularly in agriculture policies. And participations are widely used in common resource management policies such as water policy, forest management policies, and the purpose of involving the people is to identify the implemental the policies and their effective execution and monitoring the policies, the development program. And it was felt we need to develop some institutional mechanism like we have developed in the joint forest management program, the village protection committee, the forest protection committee. So, such institutions should be developed, and we need to also develop the capacity of the people to participate in the participatory mechanism, to assess the situation, to express their views, to collect the information. So, we need to develop the capacity of the peoples, the target beneficiaries, the officials, the expert involved in the process also very much required to build their capacity. And particularly we need to develop the capacity for the participatory methodologies such as participatory for appraisal techniques. With this, I thank you all. Thank you very much.